sleeves are an acceptable length and the body too, we're going to get working on the collar. So taking the end of some fresh yarn, so I'm changing to this blue colour for the collar. We're starting at the front where the V is. So we're starting at the bottom point of that V, just there on the front. And for the V section, we'll be working into the row ends of those double crochet rows, rows. So beginning at the bottom of the V, find the first sort of row end. And with the row ends for the double crochets, I do it twice into each row end. So here's the first row for that double crochet down the bottom on this side, and there's the first part of that row end. So I'll be sticking my hook through there, then grabbing this fresh yarn, making a slip knot. Obviously with the sleeves and this top bit here and the hem, I'll be working for the sleeves and the hem, I'll be working into the V of the stitch, obviously just the stitch of the stitch, and for the top here I'll be working into the other sides of those stitches. So yeah, I hope this is making sense, you know. Anyway, so beginning, we're going to make a slip knot. Might make a smaller tail for that. Make a slip knot. And pull that slip knot through that first part just there, first part of that row end, and we're going to chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, chain 8. Okay, and here is our chain of 8. Now here is chaining an extra 1, so pretty much 9, but that's like going to be the turning stitch. So from there we're going to put a single crochet into the next chain along. So skipping that first chain into the next chain, just put a single crochet and work single crochets into each of the chains all the way back to the beginning. So 8 single crochets. Alright, here I am down the other end with my 8 single crochets into each chain. Now what I'm going to do, into the next space of that row end, I'm going to put a slip stitch. So you can see the row's just here and there's another space on the end, and just slip stitch into that space. And now because we're going to be working on the next row of this, we're also going to be working another slip stitch into the next space along. So for the next row end, the first space of that, so working a slip stitch into that, and then you turn. So we're going to be carefully turning this here, and what I do is I sort of pull the yarn to that side like that. So sort of flip it over. It can look a little fiddly, but once you start, you work with what you've got and then it starts to make sense. Alright, now from here we're going to be putting, because it's going to be ribbed, into the first stitch you're going to go through the whole of the V. So actually for the first and the last stitch. So see that V on top of the stitch just there? You go in underneath both of those parts. So just like you would a normal single crochet. Pull that through, single crochet. But for stitches 2 to 7, you're going to go into the top back part of the stitch. So there's the V on top, in through that back part of the V. I hope that's close enough for you to see. Hold on a second. See if I can make that closer. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so that top back part of that V, in through the back like that, single crochet. And that's for stitches 2 through to 7. So here I am at the final stitch, that last one, the 8th one, and like I said, we go in through the whole of the stitch, so beneath both parts of that V on the top, single crochet, and then we chain 1, we turn the work, so I'll try and do this. Okay, and working back in the other direction, we put a single crochet into the first stitch, so through the whole stitch, through beneath both parts of that V. Then for stitches 2 through to 7, into the top back part of the V of the stitch, till you get to the 8th, where you will go in beneath both parts of that V, through the whole stitch. And here I am at that 8th stitch, so I'm just going to go in through the whole stitch. And then, when we as the same as when we last made it to this stage, back at the row end again, I guess you call it, go into the next part of that row end, which is just there, and slip stitch. So slip stitching again, and then because that was the slip stitch for this row, we move on to the next row end section, so for the next row, I suppose, just there. So remember, there's two parts to every double crochet row end. So then we turn again and we go into the first stitch, so beneath both parts of the V, and then for stitches 2 to 7 into the top back part of the V till you get to the 8th stitch and in through the entire of the stitch beneath both parts of that V. And yep, this is, hopefully by now you can see how we should be progressing. So it's just as simple as that. And we're going to work around. I will meet back up with you actually when we get to the top, when we finish doing the row ends on this side of the V, because we are going to have to do the other side, but you know, I'll let you do that yourself. And we'll talk about going into this is the foundation chain for the entire thing. So we'll talk about how we're going to put our stitches into there. Alright, I'll meet you at that stage and we'll talk about that. Okay, so here I am at the top and I've reached the first of those, or the first part of that foundation chain of where we began the whole thing. So as you can see, it sort of looks like that. And you can pretty easily see where you need to put the slip stitch in beneath that stitch just there. So sort of on top, focus the camera. So see just there's the stitch, and then there's sort of a wavy bit, and you go in just in there. Sort of put a slip stitch just in there like that. And then turning back and doing, you know, repeating that process of the ribbing of the collar. I'll meet you when we have to come back and connect again. Okay, here I am back at the beginning again and just going into the next stitch along. So there is the stitch, and then just in through the bottom side of that stitch, slip stitch, and that was for that row that we just did. So moving on to the next stitch along, in through the bottom part of that stitch just there, or the foundation chain part, just in through there. So yeah, it's pretty easy to do. And then once you get to the other side of the V, just do the same as you did to begin with, putting your slip stitches into the row ends. So that's 2 per row end for the double crochet. Now I'm not joining this V when it gets to the other end. It's just going to be sort of free flowing, and yeah, there'll be no join. However, we will need to be joining this on the cuffs and on the seam at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a cuff, and I'll meet back up with you to show you how to join the ribbed thing. Okay, so we'll go away, we'll finish this, I'll come back when I need to join a cuff and we'll talk then. Okay, now that I've finished the cuff, I'm going to work on joining the seam. So to do that, we've finished on one of the rows at the top. So the seam's going to be on the outside, but I honestly don't really care about that. I think it's going to be fine. Especially for this project, it doesn't really bother me. Okay, so what we do is we don't chain up one at the end of this row, but we do go into the stitch. So we do turn and we go into the stitch. And then at the other end of the cuff, where the foundation chain is, we just go into the first one on the other end. The first corresponding foundation chain, and we slip stitch all of that together. Then moving on to the next stitch along, just there, moving on to the next stitch along, we put our hook through, and once again through the corresponding chain space on the other end. So just there. And then you do that all the way 8 times till the other end. You secure the yarn, you trim, and weave in all the ends. I still haven't started work on the hem yet at the bottom, so I'm going to do that. But yeah, that's it. So that's all I need to tell you for now. We will go away, we'll finish our jumpers, we will come back, we'll try them on, we'll see how they look. Yeah, can't wait for this to be finished actually. Just quickly, I'm not sure, I mean, I like that this has sort of like the open collar where I haven't joined, but I might secure it with a button because it'll look really nice. Anyway, we'll get to it later. Yep, let's go away, we'll finish, we'll come back, we'll try them on, we'll see how they look, and I can't wait for that moment. Okay, and here is the finished sweater. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Like I said in the description of the first video, I think this is my new favorite sweater. I love this color combination. Yeah. So, yeah, just a really simple design. It didn't turn out exactly as I wanted it to. The collar was meant to be bigger, but it's not really a problem. I like it the way it is. Alright, yeah, so very simple, pretty quick to make. Pretty simple design. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon.